Okay, welcome everybody to episode number 56 of Collectable Live. Today is Sunday, December the 11th, 2022, and my name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to thank everyone who joined us last time with our guests, Sarah Martin and David Marino, both of Collectable. Note that the next episode of Collectable Live will be on Tuesday, December the 20th, and that will be the last episode of the year. We will be back on January the 8th, 2023. But let's get to tonight's episode and bring out our guest, Bob Means from eBay. How are you today? Welcome to Collectable Live.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
You bet. It's great to have you. To the chat, everybody watching, feel free to leave some comments and questions in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can. Bob, let's start off pretty quick. How has 2022 been for eBay and trading cards?
Yeah, another very, very strong year. It's been exciting to be a part of. A multiple billion-dollar category on eBay. Lots of energy, lots of movement. It's been a great year. It's been an exciting year. We continue to see a need to have a focus here and continue to build the tools and suite of tools that we need for eBay to, participate in the hobby and help drive the hobby forward.
Right on. Here's a question. I just thought of this right now. I've been using eBay, I think it feels like my whole life, but at least back to the 90s. I think my registration date was December of 1999, somewhere in there. And back then and through until recently, I never really knew just how important trading cards and sports cards were to eBay. And now, seeing eBay's installations at big events, I'm starting to feel like, eBay is well aware of trading cards. Can you sort of just mention how important are trading cards to eBay overall?
Well, we've been in this business for 26 plus years, and it really started as a platform that enabled us to connect buyers and sellers across the collectible hobby, across all hobbies within collectibles, right? So comic books, trading cards, any vinyl, like all of these things that people collect, we basically expanded the world for them. Back in the day when you were setting up your account originally, as was I, if you wanted to get some trading cards, you might have a shop that you could get to. You might be able to go to the occasional show, but eBay opened up a national and ultimately an international audience. Trading cards is a big part of the collectible universe, and collectibles is, we are the original destination for collectibles, and we have unmatched inventory, hard to find items, one of a kind items, exclusive NFTs, sports memorabilia, all of it. So. And then trading cards is like the it's the cornerstone of the whole category for me.
Good. Well, it's always nice for us collectors and hobbyists to know that trading cards are a priority for the biggest marketplace in the hobby. Let's get to know you a little bit, Bob. What's your role at eBay? How long have you been there?
Yeah, so I've been here now since 2015. I'm the director of trading cards. Which is a funny sounding title, but it's a really cool job to have, right? I'm mainly here to drive innovation in the space, make sure that buyers and sellers have the tools and the trust that they need to run their businesses. And overall, I'm responsible for deepening eBay's engagement among card collectors, right? So understanding the challenges and the friction that exist in the hobby space, going to shows, listening to people, hearing the problems, hearing the successes, understanding what it is that people need, and then try to bring that stuff to life on eBay. That's my job, and it's a good one.
And with eBay being such a big organization, I mean, to me, eBay, it just feels like a huge company. I've never been to the office. I don't really know, but, eBay seems to be everywhere. When you are looking to innovate or make a change, how hard is it to push something through the process and up the chain, let's say, so that you can actually have the resources allocated, execute and deliver to the customers? Is it a challenge, or how quickly do things get turned around?
Yeah, it is a challenge. And one of the things that we have to do is I have to really think about what this offers everybody, first of all, and then can I extend it outward, right? Can I add this to can I add this tool to other things? Years ago, eBay really was a company that thought about things in what we would call a horizontal way. Just a very democratic platform that everybody can do business on. But trading cards, as an example, is one of these places that we realized that the needs of the business are very specific. And so we began a process of verticalization, where we started thinking about what's right for the collectible category, and specifically what's right for the trading card category. An example of this is, we changed the return policy so that stores who sell on eBay could have a zero return policy, which is still covered by 3 days of eBay money back guarantee, but that's very different from every other category on the site. And we recognize this because, at the time, there was tremendous volatility in the market. People's cards were doubling in value overnight. And we really couldn't have what was, a 30-day return policy was just unfair to both sides. And so it's looking at policies and tools that we need to really to drive the business forward. You're right. It is a big company. It takes a long time. And it takes a lot of people to contribute to it, to make the event actually happen, make the tool come to life, whatever it is. And then we also need to be comfortable with iterating on it. And we might get something out to market that gets the job done, but it's not quite where we want it to be. So then we have to iterate and make it better and make it better. And again, a lot of that is driven from the feedback that we get from people when we're at these shows, when we do shows like this. And it's super helpful for us to understand where we need to continue to tweak and push.
For sure. I can imagine. Question about your team. You're the director of trading cards, and I imagine you've got a team under you. Can you give us somewhat of an idea, a feel for how big is the team that is assigned to trading cards at eBay?
Yeah, we have myself, and then we have 2 people working on the sports trading card side of the business and 2 people working on the collectible card game side of the business. They're very similar businesses, shockingly similar. Collectible card games, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, they have the additional need of being something that people will purposely destroy, right? Because they're playing with them, versus a sports trading card. You're not going to, wing your favorite card at somebody in order to try to win a game. But the collectible side of it, the investing side of it, all of those things are very, very similar. And then we have some account managers who work on our team and business development team. The team is actually fairly large and robust.
Right on. So I imagine that your department or your vertical, your division can call on resources that are more shared across all verticals within eBay. Does that designers? That's a fair
assessment.
Cool. Let's learn a little bit more about you and your hobby background. I'm always curious, somebody who has an important position in our hobby like yourself, what is your history in this hobby that we're all very excited to be a part of?
Yeah, my journey at eBay started doing work within the toy category, which collectible card games is in. And I was fascinated with collectible card games because it's an incredibly big business. And that's really where I started to learn about sort of the various customers that we have, people that are buying it because it's a passion for them, people that are buying it because they collect them, people that are buying it because they want to game with them. So I really got some insight into just that real energy that's in this space. And then I took over the role of just focusing on trading cards, both on the CCG and the sports trading card side. And it was really sort of the same process of getting out there and learning about what people's, what drives them. I'm a collector. I was a collector prior to taking on this job. You can see I've got the odd looking things behind me. Those are skateboards. I collect the skateboards that I rode back when I was a kid. I have a vinyl collection, and I also have a sports trading card collection, because as I got into this, just the passion that people have for it kind of just immediately sucked me in. So first thing I did is I kind of tiptoed my way in by getting into some older cards that I had as a kid. Thankfully not high value. So it was great to learn about how to hunt, how to find them. So I've been collecting the Giants cards, the San Francisco Giants. I'm a California guy. Been collecting those from my childhood. And it's just really, I love when I get that card back in my hand that I've been hunting. It brings back a wave of memories of being at Candlestick Park and being freezing cold and watching these guys play. Then from there, I started to move into some higher value cards. I started collecting the Niners of my youth. So Jerry Rice, Joe Montana. Then you just get sucked into it. Then you want that rookie card. His second year card is not enough. Now I got to go get the rookie card. And then once you have the rookie card, I want a finer version of the rookie card. So I've gotten sucked in with everybody else. It's funny, today, just breaking news, I was watching the Niners play Brock Purdy. Literally, as I'm watching the game now, I'm thinking, should I go get a Brock Purdy rookie card? And sure enough, I'm watching the game. I'm scrolling through eBay and looking, and I think there's a lot of people who had the exact same idea I did. So, anyways, it's added a lot to the way that I enjoy games. Big Warrior fan, big Giants fan, big Niner fan. So now I'm collecting Clay. I'm collecting Steph Curry. I'm collecting current Niners. It's just expanding.
I love it. I mean, it's really cool to know that you are a collector yourself. You mentioned you kind of registered for eBay around the same time that I did back in the late 90s. So really cool. And you mentioned one thing that convinces me you're a collector, which is when you mentioned how you're on that hunt and then you can't wait for it to come, and then the card kind of like you do you enjoy mail days like the rest of us, Bob?
Yeah. And it's the padded envelope that you look for. You just kind of, unfortunately, you push aside the Cap One bill and the American Express bill and the PG&E bill, and you just try to find that padded envelope in there and rip it open and see what you got. And it's fun. Yeah, mail days are great.
Right on. And I did notice your skateboards behind you. I was going to ask you about them, and then you brought them up. T-Dot wants to know, who's your favorite skateboarder? Please don't say Tony Hawk. I think he's the only skateboarder I'm familiar with, but do you have a favorite?
Yeah, so Christian Hosoi, from about the same generation as Tony Hawk. He was kind of my idol when it came to skateboarding back in the day. Right
on. We had a comment here from Caesar, says eBay's got one of the best platforms and been seeing the upgrades over the last 2 years. Yeah, we've all been noticing changes on eBay over the last several years.
Thank you, Caesar.
Nick says best feeling is the mail day. Yeah. Oh, look at that. He's that skateboarder you just mentioned happens to be T-Dot's favorite as well. He had his board very cool. All right.
The Hammerhead, T-Dot. Yeah, the Hammerhead.
Japanese board, he says.
Ah, nice.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit about Art Basel, because last week on the show, actually just on this past Wednesday, we had Sarah Martin and Dave Marino of Collectable, and Collectable along with eBay partnered up for the Art Basel event down in Florida last weekend. Why don't you? We heard from Collectable what their sort of debrief was of the event, how things went over. Why don't you talk a little bit about what it was from eBay's perspective, or why from eBay's perspective you wanted to have a presence at Art Basel, partnered up with Collectable, and if you don't mind, just riff on that for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, just from a personal experience while I was there. We were at the Scope, which was one of the art exhibits that happens during Art Basel. The art was spectacular, right? It's all very modern, contemporary stuff, pop art. People are walking around checking all this amazing stuff out. But people would come into our booth where there was some art and there were cards and there were comics, and you would almost see people just relax. That you'd see the shoulders go down a little bit. It was a great sign of the comfort that some of this stuff actually brings. And then they got very engaged. They want to talk about it. And they all instantly understood the idea of this being art, right? Especially when you're showing a 52 mantle or something, which is hand drawn in the first place. But even some of the, even some of the more contemporary and modern pieces have a lot of graphic design aspects. They have there's just a lot that goes into them. And so I think people, just like art, really understood the idea of an alternative asset, a deep investment in something that would be, something that you're going to want to hold on for a long time. Collectable was there because Collectable is bringing some absolutely amazing inventory, and they're going to be putting it into our vault, which is a big component of the long-term investor for the future. And then also, I'm as a collector, I absolutely understand their vision around fractionalization, and I think it's brilliant. I think fractionalization is going to be just one other part of people's portfolios go forward, and I think it's really exciting to imagine being able to have a piece of a 52 mantle again, or So it was a great partnership. I think it was a lot of fun to be showing what we love off in that sort of environment. And it was just awesome seeing these people come in and, really take a second. You would see them actually process it in their head. You could kind of get the sense that they would walk in there and say, what is comic books, trading cards, what is going on here? And then they would just think, and you get there, you go, yeah, wait, what am I? These are unique pieces. Some of these are ones of ones. There's tremendous design behind them. I get it. And so that was a lot of fun.
Did you learn anything there from Art Basel that you might not have expected? I mean, it seemed, as collectible enthusiasts, we would think, I would think too that anyone who's going to come across the eBay collectible installation at the event is going to love it. That's what I would assume, because I know that I would love it if I stumbled upon it. Did you learn anything about kind of the art enthusiast and their reaction to, and how they would accept or look at sports cards as art, and maybe start collecting them, and then therefore shopping on eBay?
Well, one of the things that I think is really interesting about the connection between trading cards and art was the provenance of the art and of the trading cards. People want to understand the story behind it. And I think, even where did you get this card from? Where is it coming from? Where is it going? All of those kind of things. And those also really matter in the art world. And then what you find is people who specifically collect specific artists. And there's a lot of people that collect specific players, collect specific teams, like I do. I just go after my West Coast teams. Those are the ones that's my gig. And so I think we saw a lot of parallels there of getting focused on what it is that drives your passion, and then chasing it however it's appropriate for you to chase it.
Yeah. Good to hear. You mentioned the eBay vault a few minutes ago there, that Collectable is putting about $5 million worth of value of collectibles into the eBay vault. Would you like to just speak to the eBay vault? Sort of what is eBay's strategy behind releasing it, and what can you tell us about that service, that tool?
Yeah, the vault's pretty straightforward right now. And again, like I told you earlier, like we need to get things out sometimes, and then we need to iterate on them and change them and evolve them. But where the vault is right now is any card that's been graded by the big four graders for $250 and above. And the big four would be PSA, Beckett, CGC, and SGC. Any card above $250 is eligible to go to the vault. While you're going through a checkout, if you've never enrolled in it, there will be an enrollment process. It takes 30 seconds. It's really super easy. And then you can send it to the vault. So the question is, why do you send it to the vault? And there's multiple reasons. One could be that you are, like me, starting to run out of room in your house for whatever it is that you collect. And you would prefer to have these in a secure storage facility, temperature controlled, humidity controlled, all of these things. And you're going to put it in there in order to let it just sit and appreciate in value. You don't necessarily want to have it sitting on your desk, whatever. So it's a great place for long-term storage. It's a great place to put a card in and let it just stay out of your hands where it can be. Now, what's amazing about the vault is it's zero seller fees. And I think that is slowly getting out to everybody. They're starting to, they look at me kind of crooked. And then I go, yeah, zero seller fees. So if it's in there, if it's gone to the vault and you decide you want to sell it because maybe the player has done some amazing things and the card's appreciated in value, you can sell it. And whoever buys it hopefully keeps it in the vault too, because it's the exact same thing now. I'm just going to leave it in the vault. I'm now the owner of the card, and I'm going to sit on it until such a time that I actually want to sell it. And so in many ways, we see the vault as a way of creating just seamless transactions, cutting out some of that shipment process that can be, that we love mail day, but it's also scary when that card's on its way to you, right? Because that's where it seems like some shenanigans can happen and some bad things can happen to the card that you want. But if you do want to get it out of the vault, we've got, if you buy something that's in the vault and want it shipped to you, eBay is going to do the fulfillment and take care of it for you. If you leave something in there for a long time, there is a withdrawal fee. So if you have something in there for a year and then finally you're like, I'm going to this trade night in a couple weeks, I really want to have that card because that's the one that I want to take there, you can withdraw it. And again, eBay will take care of that fulfillment for you.
I want to ask, you mentioned there's no seller fees, and people kind of look at you cross-eyed when you mention that. Why not? Why aren't there any seller fees?
Well, right now, so again, we're building out the whole fee structure, and within the next few weeks, we're gonna be so we've locked in what we're doing for 2022, and there's not a lot of 2022 left. So I can't get into what is going to be happening in the coming years, but we will be getting out our fee structure to everybody so everyone understands where all the puts and takes are. But zero seller fees is a big component of our vault go forward.
We have a question from Kenny D. Wants to know, can Canadians use the eBay vault?
Not yet, Kenny, but this is a top priority for me. There are export issues with a vaulted item, and that's something that we need to. That's again one of these iterative things that we need to work on.
Bob, anything else about the vault you'd like to mention before we move on to some of the other tools that eBay has rolled out recently?
No, I think that's the main story. I mean, we really see the vault as a place where in the future, once we have this thing exactly where we want it to be, it's going to be about frictionless trading. And I think a lot of people are getting very comfortable with the idea of not necessarily physically having cards in their hands, but having them stored digitally. So when you have something in the vault, it'll also be part of your collection on the eBay app. So, you know, if you were out to dinner and you guys wanted to talk cards, you could do it. You could pull up the collection manager on eBay and be like, here's some stuff that I've got. This is in the eBay vault. This is in the eBay vault. This is at my house. The other thing that we are going to need to work on is the ability for people to submit cards directly to the vault. So right now, the only way of getting something into the vault is buying something on eBay. Clearly, we need to figure out how to have people who are sitting on cards at their house to get them into the vault as well.
And you mentioned that to get a card into the vault, it has to be worth $250 or more. You know, and you also recognize that a lot of collectors want to have the cards in hand. So even though you've rolled out the vault, you're going to continue to iterate on it. Do you kind of expect a full sort of conversion from collectors to the vault, or do you recognize, like, what are eBay's expectations on that? Because, you know, for me as a collector, I like to have my cards in hand. I understand the attraction of using vaults. There are several reasons to use a vault, but what do you say to people, or do you say anything to people who are like, well, I just want to have my cards in hand?
No, I say keep them in your hand then. Like the vault is for some collectors who see a need for it. There's a lot of people that we will never engage in the vault outside of maybe buying some stuff because they can get great deals from it. But you know, you might buy something out of the vault, but if that's not your thing, if you don't want to put stuff in the vault, we've got the marketplace right over here doing what it's been doing for 26 plus years. So yeah, trade, collect, invest, do it how you are comfortable doing it. Do it how it works for your world. I think one of the things that is important about the hobby is the fact that there's a huge social component to it. It's why we all love going to the trade shows. It's why we all love trade nights. So, you know, a lot of these things are just to continue to expand on the services available at any one given time and let people trade how they want to trade, how they're most comfortable with it. So I totally get it. There's cards that won't come out of my collection ever. Some of my most valuable cards don't actually have financial value behind them. I mean, they got some, but you know, it's not even about the money. It's about when I got that card, where I was when I got that card, the story behind it. And some of that stuff has great meaning to people. And we know there's a lot of people who like to see their card, right? They just want to know it's in their possession and have it. At the same time, you know, I don't know if you want to have a $15,000 card sitting on your desk. So, you know, I think the security that we offer is top notch. I think the storage that's going to be there is top notch. So there might be needs for you to do things differently based off of the specific card too. You might put some of your stuff in the vault, keep some of it at home, keep some of it in a locked safe, whatever. But, you know, 50 years ago, or not even 50 years ago, I shouldn't even age myself this bad. Less than 50 years ago, I remember going to the safe deposit box with my mom, right? And you would go there for your passports and you would go there for, you know, some silver coins that you had. You would put all the things that were super special to you, but you just wanted them sort of out of sight, out of mind, where you could just store them safely. I think that's a big piece of what we're expecting out of the vault.
Cool. Okay. Let's talk about a couple other tools that I know you guys are rolling out. You've got Price Guide and you've got Collection. Why don't you just riff on those in any order you'd like and explain what they are and how you think they're going to help the hobby grow, mature, or just serve the hobby?
Yeah, so for collection, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the ability to keep track of where your cards are at any one given time. So when you buy something off of eBay, it automatically wants to go into your collection. You can still opt out of it if you want, or you can send it in there. And so that's cool. So you've got everything you've bought on eBay. It's going in your collection. You're keeping track of it. We also need to build the ability for people who have their Excel or Google Sheets, and they've been documenting their cards for 1,000 years. We want to make it so it's easy for you to get those uploaded into the collection tool as well. And the primary reason to do this is for you to be able to keep track of everything. So to your point, some of your stuff might be in the vault, some of it might be at home, whatever, but now you have everything in one place. And the value of those cards would be adjusting every single week or day based off of eBay price guidance. So we've got the deepest data in the world on price guidance. And what we want to do is we want to make it so that that's integrated into the way that you're looking at your collection at any one given time on eBay. One of the things that I always get a kick out is when we go to the shows and, all the buy, sell, trade is happening, but everyone's got their phone out, everyone's on the eBay app, and they're using that as their guide for what they need to do. And so we know that the pricing guidance is incredibly important to us. We know that we need to just keep making it and fine tuning it and making it better so that it's a tool that people can go straight to. But we'd love to have it connected to people's collection. And then eventually you'll have the ability to take something in your collection and just create an instant listing for, so if you decide to sell something, make a listing of it instantly. If you have something in the vault that you want to turn on as a sellable item, turn it on. That way you just kind of control what you're doing, your ins and outs, and the flow of your inventory of your collection.
You mentioned that people are at a card show and everyone's looking at the eBay app, looking at sort of completed listings and that sort of thing. For comps, I'm curious your thought on comps and eBay comps. Maybe we can talk about eBay comps in particular because you're with eBay, but as a collector yourself, what is your expectation from the hobby, from people, actively buying and selling cards, in terms of them relying on eBay comps, maybe alone in a vacuum versus, and I'm not just asking you this question to ask you like how important are eBay comps. It's more how important are comps in general to you when buying cards. And for additional context, if we only ever are willing to pay the most recent comp, card values, collectible values will never move. They'll always be the same if everyone's only going to pay the last comp, because the last comp would always be the same as there are more and more of them. So how important are comps, do you feel, as far as the growth of the industry?
I think comps bring a transparency that's healthy for the industry. We're still seeing cards going up in value. So the comps they're relevant in the fact that people know that the last cards, I'll make this up, sold for 500, but they're also relevant in the fact that people know that there's not a lot of those $500 cards available. And so, maybe I'm going to push myself to 550, or I'm going to push myself to 575, whatever. So we're still seeing cards go up in value. We're also seeing cards coming down in value. So, I don't think that I don't think, from a comp perspective, I think it's important to be able to look over things over a longer time frame versus what's happened in the last 2 weeks. I think that's the kind of intel that any one of us want as collectors. And I think you also want to be able to look at comps in a way that are not necessarily too spiky, right? Like you want to look over a long period of time and just kind of see what the general trend is, so you can feel comfortable at sometimes paying a premium. And sometimes you feel like you got a great discount. But yeah, I think the market will push things up and push things down as appropriate.
I agree. And even on my episode last night of Sports Cards Live, we talked a bit about comps and the importance of them. And I think they're data points. I think they're a guide. They're interesting to follow, but they shouldn't be the only sort of input into somebody's decision. But eBay does provide, just by virtue of storing 90 days. Is it 90 days of past sales that are available on eBay when you sort of filter out to sold items?
I think when you filter on sold items, I don't want to get this wrong. I think when you filter on sold items, you're getting 90 days worth of detail. But I think, if you're a seller on eBay, you're getting what we call, you've got data going back as far as you need to now. So, the people that are both buyers and sellers, and so many of our collectors are buyers and sellers. So like, I don't want to, I'm not using the term seller as I've got a, $1 million business or anything. Like, I'm a seller on eBay and I maybe sell a card a week. But when I sell, I've got the data that I need to understand how to list things. And I think that's another important thing that we, people also forget the other side of the business when we're talking comps. Yeah, it would be amazing if somebody didn't know what the value of a Tom Brady rookie card graded as a PSA 10 was. But, that's the other thing that people need, is they need to understand, like, what's reasonable? Where can I put this price and see if I can get someone to jump on it? So as a seller, I can go back and I can get a very long range of price guidance.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, very cool. Let's talk a little bit more about the year 2022 that just it's about to finish off. And really, I'm curious, what did eBay trading cards, you and your team, what did you guys learn about the sports card industry during 2022, and to the effect that they impacted your business? How did you respond?
Well, there's a few things that we've done, and this goes back even one more year.
And that's fair. Go back as far as you'd like.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that we learned was, we know this, there's tens of millions of cards that are sold that are, $20 and under. There's a lot of people who are getting into the base cards, or maybe the first step up from a base card. There's a tremendous amount of velocity there. And like I was saying, when I was brand new to this, I felt most comfortable going after a lot of the cheaper cards that are out there, because I just wanted to get my feet wet and learn, like, what is this process? What's going on? So, building the eBay standard envelope that we did and got it out there so that people could have tracked mail on an under $20 purchase, that really felt like a win for us. But it was all about filling a need that we had out there. There was a ton of people just putting a stamp on an envelope for some of these lower value cards and sending them out there. And again, that's just a situation where it creates kind of a unfair environment for both the buyer and the seller. And I think that's just an example of what we're always looking at eBay, to see if there are places where we need to just tweak something a little bit one way or the other to make sure that things are things are correct for both sides of the business. Sometimes you got to lean really heavily into the buyer side. Sometimes you have to lean really heavily into the seller side. But for the most part, we're constantly trying to make sure that everything's relatively fair for both sides. That has continued. I think one of the most interesting things for 2022, though, is a lot of the year-over-year increases that we're seeing in what you would call secondary sports or tertiary sports. I hate that term, but sports cards have always been the big three: basketball, football, baseball.
No, the big four. Hockey's got to be in there. Come on.
Then you're not going to like my next statement one bit, because soccer is moving into that position as number 4. Which makes sense, because this whole thing is starting to expand internationally as well. And it's incredibly hot right now. It's because of the World Cup, right? But then you've got hockey. So past hockey, past soccer, now you're starting to get into secondary, tertiary. There's not a good term for them. But, UFC has been on fire. F1's been ridiculous. Wrestling, like old school WWE wrestling. We've seen tremendous increases. Tennis, golf. So, this has just continued to expand outward into the other sports. And, I think there's a formula that a lot of people like to follow. So if you're going to get a golf card, what's the golf card you try to get? You get Tiger. You go after the best, right? If you're getting tennis, you want Serena Williams. And we just see that kind of replicating itself out on other sports. So a lot of energy out there in the secondary, tertiary, whatever we're going to call them, the other sports, right? And then, for the big 3, for the big 5, whatever we want to call them, there's stability occurring. There's, it's all getting back sort of on a path that I think people are going to feel more and more comfortable with. But that's been the most exciting thing, is expanding this outward into the other sports, which just means our tools have to be that much more expansive. If we create price guidance, we got to have F1 in there. And you can't just do it for baseball, football, and basketball. You have to have hockey. You have to have soccer, right? They've jumped over the hoop of volume that you have to make sure that they are being treated as the same. But then you got to start building F1 out. You got to build NASCAR out. You got to build golf out. So it makes it hard. It makes it harder. It makes there more lift involved, but it's all good because that's best for the hobby.
Yeah. No, I appreciate all that, and I appreciate your comments on hockey. Hockey's my first love as a sport, as a fan, and as a collector. So, but I recognize that it was at best the fourth most popular collectible sport for a long time, and now I also recognize that soccer has leapfrogged us it into that fourth spot. I hope it can at least maintain the fifth position moving forward. Is hockey going to maintain fifth, Bob? What do you think?
I think so. I think hockey and soccer will be fighting everything out. I think there was a lot of buzz around World Cup right now. There's still so much energy. I mean, our Canadian friend who was asking about the vol question, like that's one of the really cool things to see in this business is the exchange between Canada and the U.S. Lots of imports, lots of exports, and hockey's the leader of that. And we are starting to see a lot of this international business creep up elsewhere. The Asian countries absolutely love basketball. Australia is really into basketball. You're seeing European teams get more, start gravitating toward obviously soccer, football, whatever they want to call it. But, they're starting to get into some of the sports and some of the hobby itself. So it's really expanding from an international perspective, which I think is exciting.
Well, let's hear what the chat has to say about the popularity of these sports. Justin Vick says, sorry, Jeremy, hockey is my number 4. That's okay, Justin. You don't have to be sorry. I think it's cool that it even ranks. T-Dot here says hockey is cemented in the top 4 as there are over 100 years in the game. That's a nice comment. Brendan Ryan says, no way soccer is bumping hockey out of the big 4. Show me the numbers. I mean, I think eBay has shown numbers in the past. Maybe I saw something to sum up 2021. Larry Morris says, Jeremy's face just fell off. It's all good. Very nice.
The thing that's great about the hobby is if hockey's your thing, then hockey's your thing. And the passion that people have is the same. If you talk to if you're a hockey card trader and you talk to a baseball card trader, what's driving you guys is typically very similar. Just the passion, all of those things are very shared, and it's why you guys, when you have those conversations, you just light up and you get into it. And yeah, if you were talking to me about hockey, I wouldn't know much more. I would know Gretzky and I would know Orr and I would know the greats, and any of those things would be awesome. And we had a couple amazing hockey cards at Art Basel, and you just look at them and the historical significance of those guys, and all of that's super cool to me. But I personally would just avoid hockey because I don't know enough about it. I don't know who I should be doing. And I think that's what's cool about the hobby is that it's super inclusive in the fact that, I don't think anyone cares if you're a hockey guy, a soccer guy, a baseball guy, or whatever. They just want you to be a part of the hobby and have that passion.
Agreed. I agree with that for sure. I mean, you like what you like, and if fewer people like what you like, that's okay.
Yeah, it's actually better for you.
Yeah, we have like T-Dot says 35 million Canadians, disagree.
Yeah,
but
I know. I've got all Canada mad at me now.
Right, no, but you know what's interesting though, Bob, is it 35 million Canadians? That's that's bigger than what's California, 25 million, which is a huge population. So what I don't take offense to any of this if hockey isn't as popular as soccer or any other sport. But what I do think is real. I believe that the strength of the collector bases, I think if you were to rank those, like just how healthy, how strong is that foundation? I think baseball is going to be number 1. It's America's pastime. And then you're going to have hockey number 2 because the hockey collectors are so loyal, so passionate, less transient. I think we've seen a lot of transient collectors come into basketball and football in the last few years. More risk that they could just fall off, go away, stop collecting. Hockey collectors are pretty dedicated, at least the ones that I know, and I do know several of them. A few more comments here, Bob, though. T-Dot says soccer will be an afterthought in 3 months, and I mean, who knows? Perhaps it will be. T-Dot says San Franciscoans know nothing about hockey, so there you go, Bob. You're off. Totally. The expectations were low.
I've been to a couple Sharks games.
Have you? I was at a Sharks game myself several years ago. California's 40 million people. Wow, I thought it was 25. That's huge. That's a huge population. So right on par with Canada as a country. Back to kind of what eBay learned over the past year or two, what you've done to address it. I'd like you to talk about the trust policy, Bob, because that's something that the hobby is often, you know, concerned about, not just on eBay, but any platform, whether even if it's just on social media platforms, people meeting. But what how important is the trust policy to eBay? That's a funny question. How important is it that your buyers and sellers can trust each other? And how much of a priority, or how often are you dealing with trust issues? And speak a bit to the policy and how it's evolved. Sort of a
Yeah,
triple pronged question there. Sorry.
yeah. So trust is front of mind every single day, and we there's kind of two ways of answering this. First of all, one is with the number of transactions that eBay does successfully, most of our transactions they go just the way you want them to go. Buyer did what the buyer was supposed to do, seller did what the seller was supposed to do. Nothing got lost in the mail, right? Everything's on the up and up. And the vast majority of our transactions are like that. Reality of the situation is, though, when something goes wrong, it punches well above its weight class. It's frustrating. And, I know that if something actually happens directly to anybody watching this or anybody who's involved in the hobby or anywhere on eBay, it's frustrating. And it's frustrating because it feels like you've been taken advantage of. It's frustrating because the very transaction you did is a leap of faith with trust, right? So we think about it every single day. There's always going to be more for us to do, but every single buyer should feel confident that the person that they're selling or the person that they're buying from wants the same thing that the buyer wants, which is a transaction to go smoothly. And we need to keep doing more and more to keep working towards that point. It'll be almost impossible to ever get to a point where I can just say, I wish, but I don't think you can ever get to a point that you can say there's nothing bad that's going to happen in any transaction that happens on eBay. I just don't think that's reasonable, but I do think it's reasonable to just work towards shrinking whatever those are and making it harder for bad actors on either side, seller or buyer, to get away with stuff. I think that there's a lot of bad actors out there who think that, we're so big that we're not paying attention to these things and they can just keep doing it. We are paying attention, and we've taken some pretty significant steps in the last couple of years to improve some of the trust that we have. Again, back to the changing the return policy. Like, a lot of people really were frustrated with that on the buying side because they liked having 30 days to hold on to a card and see if they thought it was going to appreciate in value. And then on the flip side, the sellers out there, it was always frustrating for me to ever hear about Ja Morant going nuts and scoring 60 points and everybody's looking for Ja Morant cards. And so suddenly you can't find the one that you had listed the other day, right? All of those kind of things are frustrating for me. They punch me in the gut almost as hard as they punch you in the gut, whoever the buyer is that's affected. And so it is a critical thing for us to work on. Trust is critical to expand upon and to make better. The policies that we have in place, counterfeits, they're illegal. They're on eBay. I know that people put them up there. People forget to tell that they're selling a reprint. We are vigorously pulling those things down as fast as we can find them. And so, those are critical for us to do.
Okay. No, good. And you're here to get feedback. You mentioned that you got your ear to the ground. Outside, trust is certainly important. A couple comments in the chat to verify that for us. But what else? What are you seeing what do you hear from people when you're at a show, when you're doing shows like this? What are you seeing from people, customers that frustrate them in particular? Anything else that comes to mind?
Thankfully, the vast majority of interactions I have are actually pretty positive. People recognize that some things go wrong if you're selling a ton of stuff on scale. Like if something goes wrong, something went wrong. But I think that I hear frustration about not being able to get enough customer service to help solve something. I hear things about feeling like somebody is, a seller suddenly goes radio silent, these kind of things. And again, these are the things that we need to work on. We need to make sure that you've got help if you need help. We need to make sure that sellers that do anything that, even if it feels shady, I think knowing that it's being investigated, letting people know that we are looking into it. If we do determine that somebody is acting in bad faith, we take them off the site. And there's been numerous people taken off the site from a selling perspective. From a buyer's perspective, we do the exact same thing. So we are keeping our eyes out and trying to stop these things from happening. But for the most part, I think we just need to continue to take this feedback, take it, be humble when we hear it, and go, okay, like what can we do about this? What can we do to stop unpaid items from an auction perspective? What can we do to prevent these things from happening? What are the steps we need to take? And I think in the coming year, you're actually going to see some things that you will understand as somebody who's deep in the hobby. You're like, oh, I know why they're doing this. I get that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
You mentioned unpaid items. That's certainly frustrating, as are shill bidders and shill bidding. And I see lots of comments on that on social media, and I often see people accusing items of being shill bid. And I'm wondering, like, just because somebody has low feedback doesn't mean they're automatically a shill bidder. Can you just sort of shed some light on how, if you can quantify this at all, or just give an indication, like, are there new people still signing up on eBay and joining the sports card hobby who are coming out without any feedback and bidding legitimately?
The most exciting thing, I think, for everybody who's involved in the hobby, if we all, the one thing that I think we all have in common is we want to just see the hobby get bigger. It getting bigger is better for all of us. If we enjoy the buy, sell, trade component of it, that's only good news. And we still see brand new people coming onto the site. We see brand new people who might not understand what they're doing. But I don't think it's fair to just assume that because someone's got zero feedback that they're automatically trying to game something. I will say this, though, one of the things that frustrates me about all of this is that there's two people being impacted. There's not a seller alive who wants the card to go unpaid for, obviously, right? And in a situation that something goes unpaid, there was usually a second place person who wanted it. And so I think that's a legit frustration. I have heard that from people where, I feel like I was going to get it and someone came in and sniped it at the last second. And then I see that it just shows up on the site again. That's frustrating. And I get that. So, I think it's not a suffer in silence kind of thing. Like, I know this is happening and I know that this is something that we need to continue to improve upon.
Yeah, for sure. And it can't be easy, especially when it comes to that particular item itself. All right, before we start to wrap up, Bob, anything else you'd like to mention on behalf of eBay trading cards? What, maybe anything else for as 2022 wraps up, or any previews into 2023 before I want to come back and ask you more of a personal question?
Yeah, so for previews, I can't really tell you guys what's happening, but keep your ears open and look for the marketing announcements. I think we've released a lot of really cool stuff to, again, make eBay a better place to shop. I think there's some really cool stuff coming, and I'm excited about it. And I think that it's going to make. I think various components are going to have impacts on various types of collectors. So just keep your ears open and look for those. The other thing is, we are at the big shows. And please, come see us. Come, we'll at the National, we'll have a booth at in a couple early in Q1. We're going down to a thing that's happening down in Burbank. We're going to be at these shows. And we need the face-to-face interaction. We want to hear from you, and we want to hear your horror stories too. We want to hear your successes. We want to hear your horror stories. We typically go to these shows now with a full retinue of our product team, our engineers, our literal coders, so that they can hear firsthand how they can help impact people. And then, of course, I'm going to be there, and my team will be there, and we love to get direct with you and get your feedback. So if you have the opportunity to go to any of the bigger shows, please swing by, just say hi, introduce yourself, tell us what's going on. We typically also have GCX support, or sorry, help desk support. People there. So if you've been sitting there with some account issue that you can't get resolved, like, these are great places to get those completely fixed as well.
You mentioned to, come see us at shows, come see eBay at shows. And you mentioned the National Burbank. You guys have been set up at the Sport Card Expo in Toronto the last couple of years as well. So that tells me that hockey is certainly on your radar, which of course I like to hear. Bob, you mentioned earlier, you are a collector yourself. Is there anything out there that you're hunting down right now that you're kind of, do you have saved searches on eBay that you check regularly as well? And what are you looking for?
Yeah, it's funny. I just got, I literally just succeeded at my last hunt, which was a Holland rookie card. He's a soccer player. I've been swinging and missing on multiple auctions, and I just got that closed. So I'm super excited about that. That will be making its way over to the vault. I think I don't know, like, literally I'm thinking I need to pivot hard to Brock Purdy right now because the kid just tore it up today. But no, I think the next one, I was talking about my earlier collection of Montana and Rice. I think I'm getting to a place where I actually want to start upgrading my Montana. So, I've got a low grade PSA card. That might be the next one to start making my way up that elevator. Cause I think that he's my greatest. Brady's better, but he's my greatest. And then, the interesting thing that we just saw in real time recently, Pele had a bunch of news reports about, his health being in bad shape. And it's wild to watch people start pounding the site and trying to find Pele things. So right now, my hunt just finished. My last hunt just finished. I'm going to start a new hunt as soon as I figure out what it needs to be. It might be something related to Pele. It might be just that, Montana rookie grail card for myself.
I do also, I collect some Jerry Rice stuff. So when you say that, we may be bidding on the same items here and there. But yeah, to me, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, those are great athletes to collect, goats, if you will. What do you think of the term goat, Bob?
It's great for conversation. For me, like, and the cool thing about collecting is it doesn't matter. It matters what you think, right? So is LeBron better than Jordan? That's a great conversation to have over a beer or over a dinner, right? But it'll never be solved. So it really comes down to what you think, right? And I would be happy to have a LeBron card, and a great LeBron card, and I would be happy to have a Jordan rookie card as well, right? Because I respect both of them tremendously. If I was really going to get into that argument, I'd start saying Kareem. But these are the kind of arguments that we've all probably had a million of. But it's what matters to you, and that's what's cool about this. So Jerry Rice, like, I'll put him up on any GOAT argument as a wide receiver, but I'm open to other people feeling that this guy over here is the GOAT. That's just a fun part of this. It's all about what you want and what you think.
Yeah. Here, Justin Vick says GOAT should be reserved only for Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky. My comment on the term, it means greatest of all time. There can only be one, like, per sport, but I don't buy into that limitation anymore, Bob, because just the way it's used in the hobby, I think we have to give it a little bit of freedom to say, and what I say is, goats travel in herds. There can be more than one goat per sport. Okay, before I move on to my last question, I want to bring up Mogul Good says, my son and I enjoy collecting the eBay DJ ski cards that were given out at the National. I have a couple of those myself. He says, unfortunately, PSA refuses to grade them. Perhaps Bob can look into that on his end. So, Bob, if you want to take note.
That's thanks for letting me know. I'm surprised. The ski partnership was a lot of fun. He did great cards for us at the last National and the last National. Those are a lot of fun. He's a tremendous artist. But yeah, I had no idea. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm surprised that those aren't getting graded.
Well, there you go. We learn something every day. Thank you, Tom Bullard. Thanks for joining the show today. Bob, final question. This is Collectable Live. Collectable is the fractional ownership company for sports trading cards, memorabilia, and soon to be more, I believe. Bob, what can you tell me? You know, I asked this question to everybody who comes in. You did touch on it before, but we've had a lot of more people join since then. How do you see fractional ownership in the hobby fitting into the overall landscape as we're moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, fractionalization, again, it just makes a lot of sense to me. I think for anyone who's brand new to it, think about the stock market. If you buy a share of Apple, you've now bought a fractionalized asset. It would be great to be able to own Apple, the company, but that's a pretty big task, right? So when you buy a share of a company, you're getting a share of, you know, your own piece of that company. Fractionalization is the same thing. It's gonna help ensure greater liquidity. It's gonna help drive price discovery and transparency, and it's going to give accessibility to high-end cards and other things that normally you just wouldn't have. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like I would love, one of the comics we had at our Basel was an Amazing Fantasy. It's the first Spider-Man. It was it was graded an 8 by CGC. You don't see books like that in that condition. And I think, you know, I can't afford that book. There's no way I could ever afford that book. But I think it'd be really neat to be able to have a piece of that book. And I think that's where fractionalization comes in. It's going to be just another part of your portfolio if you think about these assets as things that you want to collect and have them appreciate. I just think it makes a lot of sense to me. You know, the idea of a Mantle PSA 8 just sitting there in someone's hands forever, I think it'll actually increase the value of the card over the time. I shouldn't, you know, I can't speak to whether things are going to appreciate or depreciate, but it makes sense to me that by having more people be fractional owners of it, I could see that liquidity actually driving the value of that item up over time in a way that when only the only people that can in fact actually afford it are very rare air, and there's only so many of them. When you start fractionalizing, you're opening it up to that many more people, and that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, so thank you for that response. I love hearing everyone's response to how they see fractional fitting in. This is episode 56 of Collectable Live. I think I probably asked it 55 or 56 times by now. Bob, there's been a few questions that have come through we haven't addressed and gone to. Is there anywhere that people can direct any questions that they weren't able to ask you today afterwards on social media or anything like that?
You know what? I would ask everybody to follow at eBay Collectibles on Instagram. I think it's a fun way of staying in tune with what we are doing. That's where we're going to announce new tools. That's where we're going to announce where we're going to be in the future. It's not a great place to ask questions back to us. I'm going to hope that my comms teammate is online, and if they have any ideas as other places that we could actually pull in some feedback. But I don't think we've got a direct source. Again, the best place would certainly be you know, at these shows. Talk to us there. If you follow us at eBay Collectibles and you have something that you need help with, go ahead and throw it in there. Maybe we will see it. But the best thing possible, if you can make it, is to come to one of the shows and come find me directly.
And what
if you're actually having like a problem, go through the customer service process. If you want to give us feedback on what we need to do, we kind of need to meet you face to face.
And I assume that to reach out to customer service is as easy as going to the website and just looking for that email address?
That's right.
All right. Okay. Well, there you go, everybody. That's going to be it for Collectable Live today on December the 11th, 2022. We will be back on December 20th. Will be the next and last episode of Collectable Live this year. Bob, thank you for joining. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Same to you. Hang tight right there for a moment, Bob. Everyone, again, thanks for joining. Have a great week ahead, and we will see you next time. This episode of Collectable Live is now over.